I figured it just isn't right to drink champagne in matador pants. Would you mind fastening my straps in the back?
Oh, sure.
Potato chips, champagne. I won't let myself fall in love with a man who won't trust me no matter what I might do.
No matter what you... Lorelei, that's being unreasonable.
Well, goodbye then.
And please, don't get it any more mischief.
This is your reminder. We die at the end of this. Somebody mistreat you, don't know how to treat you. Family member don't know their role, don't know their place. People constantly being disrespectful to you. Them kids. We die at the end of this.
I'm dreaming of all of the possibilities.
It's your daily dose of Toxic Talk. I'm your host, Mason Nicole. Be problematic. Why wouldn't you? Why do you want to live the rest of your life being boring when you could be the entertainment for the bored? You know, we're only here for a little while. Be problematic. You should.
Many of us have heard of the term, you only live once, aka YOLO. We have been talking about the state of this generation, basically of humanity and society lately, and just how far we have fallen. And I do believe that YOLO, I'm not going to put all the burden on YOLO because, of course, there's a lot of factors, but it is one of those terms that really, I know for me, speaking from experience for me, YOLO, you only live once, got me into a lot of unnecessary trouble. People usually say that when they're about to do something risky, something dangerous, or something that their conscience is probably telling them not to do. They're like, you know what? YOLO. And then they do it, right? We're going to talk about this concept of YOLO and just how my mind has changed about it. We're going to break it down and look at it from a different perspective. But first, hey friend, welcome to my channel, Karina Lou Mental Gems. This channel is dedicated to leveling up in all areas of your life. So let us learn together, read together, but most importantly, grow together. Now, without further ado, let's get into this video. So we already explained what YOLO is you only live once, okay? So you guys know my story by now. I'm always talking about it. I went to a school that was a high school that had a lot of activity. There was a lot going on with the girls, the guys, substances, all of that, you know, and even in terms of protection in such a tough environment, you can find yourself mingling with gang members and, you know, participating in certain things yourself as a form of protection against these things. And I would be the type of girl where at school, this is the life I was living, but at home, I was a completely different person. I was still a church girl, a good girl per se. But yeah, not while I'm out there, because to me, I saw it as a means of survival. But in this, YOLO was becoming a thing, the ideology of YOLO, before it became the word, was already a thing. Every time we're about to do something risky, everybody would just say, you only live once. You know, that'd be the ideology and stuff like that. And even young girls, I've had friends that participated in some stuff that we talk about, like whether it was, we already spoke about trains being ran on people. And there would be young girls, guys, that would have this happen to them. And their ideology, the girl's ideology, would be you only live once. Yeah. So this is what was going on. And at the time, the concept, the word of YOLO, you only live once, is really a young people thing. You know, the older you get, you don't really subscribe to that because you realize, yeah, even if I live once here on earth, I only live once. I know whatever actions I do now, I will suffer the consequences for later or in my older year. If I keep saying YOLO every time I eat and I just eat whatever, down the line when I have cancer, diabetes, hypertension, that was a consequence of YOLO. You only live once, so eat that extra fries, girl. Eat them chips, some donuts every day. Wake up and have, you know, alcohol, wine, along with cake for breakfast. You only live once. You're going to suffer the consequences later, and it's going to be something.
You see any very old, obese people, Luke? Just answer me that question.
Not really. No.
You see older people, but I'm talking about, you know, you go to the old people's home and you see the 80, the 90-year-olds there, you know, the late 90s. They're not obese. that are relatively in normal shape. You don't see people who are obese, who unfortunately struggle with their eating habits, get to that age. It just doesn't happen. So these are lifestyle factors. It's probably the leading cause of death now.
And I hear this a lot, mate, and you hear it as well. They'll say, well, you're only here for a short time, so I might as well enjoy it.
If someone uses that phrase, I'm only here for a short time, I'm going to enjoy it, they're not enjoying it. They're hiding from pain. You cannot tell me you liked the feeling of being unhappy in your body. You cannot tell me you like the feeling of being exhausted. You cannot tell me you like the feeling of waking up and seeing all the chocolate and crisp packets around you, or whatever your version of it is, and then go, I said I wasn't going to do it again. Listen, you can't kid a kid out, because I was stuck in that mindset myself. Not a happy place to be.
I've been wanting to make this video for a long time. YOLO. YOLO is one of the worst phrases ever created. Ever. It basically takes all of Eastern philosophy and religion and throws it in the trash. The way that people use it is ridiculous. Most of the time when somebody uses this phrase, they say it right before doing something super dumb. I think generally it became the substitute for carpe diem, which is the Latin phrase of seize the day, which is not the same thing. It's a totally different phrase. And finally, how do you know you only live once?
YOLO was by the drummer of the Grateful Dead, whose name is Mickey Hart, who's super old now. So when you hear YOLO, like what does YOLO tend to mean in today over the last decade? You know, I think it was popular when I was in college, you were at seminary, that sort of thing.
Yeah. It's kind of like a war cry that you shout before you do something incredibly stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I am about to do something dumb. I need to yell a word. The word I yell is YOLO.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, it's this whole, like every song from the 2010s was, it's all about tonight. We only have tonight. It's all about what we do tonight and the people around us and, drinking and drugs and on women or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
It's all about tonight. No repercussions tomorrow. Mm-hmm. No dealing with our decisions. Nope. You only live once and it's all about tonight. But what's really interesting is that that's not what Mickey Hart meant.
About millennials that we desperately want you to forget is that millennials were the YOLO generation. And that's actually a big part of what I mean about having high expectations. That phrase, you only live once, along with carpe diem, live life to the fullest, seize the day, I heard those so much as a teenager and in college. And that mentality puts pressure on you. You can't just work a job. You've got to find your dream career. You can't just be in a relationship. You've got to find your soulmate. You can't just be healthy. You have to be fit and well and turn all your hobbies into side hustles and constantly be striving for the best. Now, granted, all of those are extremely American ideas in general, but millennials were the first generation to grow up with social media, and social media amplified all of this. Suddenly, we're all visible to each other in ways that we had never been before. What we didn't fully understand at the time was that YOLO was largely interpreted as maximize the enjoyment, in other words, the profit, from every sector of your life. Never be content. You've got to get the best of everything. You're only here once. Contentment is the enemy. Anyway, we internalized all of that pretty hard, basically until the pandemic happened. But if I can see a silver lining anywhere, it seems like Gen Z, from what I can tell, they're not having any of it.
If every time you want to lay with somebody, it's YOLO, you only live once, yeah, there's a lot of people I know that had to go to the clinic, go take that pill, go take that shot because you done caught something from YOLOing, right? And we see someone like, everybody use him as an example, but someone like Diddy, we've heard Diddy say YOLO a lot. Where's Diddy now?
Your parties are the hottest ticket around.
They won't even give me a permit for the parties, man. They don't want me to throw the parties no more. But we ain't gonna stop. We gonna keep on having fun. You're gonna hear about my parties. They're gonna be shutting them down. They're gonna probably be arresting me, doing all types of crazy things just because we wanna have a good time.
Parties are the hottest ticket in town. People dying to get into your party. How does that make you feel?
I mean, it's cool.
I know I pissed a lot of people off, including you. Mm-hmm. You know, you live a really hectic lifestyle, and I don't understand all the running around, and who are these people that you surround yourself with, and who are these people? Now, you threw a house party, and I got the footage, okay? Look at this. Now, who has this many people at their house? Puff. Act bad, 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 act bad. Come on. Act bad. Be as bad as you can be, motherfucker.
So there's consequences for YOLO. When you're YOLOing, understand that there is consequences for YOLOing. Everything you do in this life, there's consequences. And even though you only live once, you still cannot use you living once as a exception or a reason to get into mess, drama, be around the wrong people, get into trouble, doing things that you're not supposed to. That is just the wrong mentality to have. And I want people to understand that. You guys share some examples of YOLO. So your own stories of a time that you YOLO'd and it didn't necessarily turn out right. I'll give you guys an example to start. Just one of the many times that YOLO has gotten me into trouble. Me and my childhood best friend decided to skip school. We were in middle school. We was like, YOLO. YOLO, girl, you only live once. Let's go get into some trouble. We just ain't feel like going to school that day. Whatever. So I went to the library. Of all things, went to the downtown public library. And obviously, I looked young. I was probably like 12 years old. She was like 13, 14. We looked every bit of our age. And of course, the librarian and adults that were there, like, why are these two kids? They were watching us closely for some time. Like, why are these two kids during school hours here? They were looking to see if we had chaperones with us or parents, because we took the city bus. We went, and of course, there was no chaperones with us. So what ended up happening, they ended up calling truancy. Truancy is like the cops that come and arrest you for skipping school, and they put you in juvie until your parents come and pick you up. So when I realized kind of like, hey, we're getting too much attention, let's leave. I feel like something's about to go down. It was already too late. The police were outside and they got us. They put us in those little cuffs, zip tie cuffs, put us in a van, a truancy van. That's what they have in Florida, with a whole bunch of other kids. And me and my best friend, mind you, like I said, we were good little church kids at home. We were bawling. We were crying our eyes out like, oh my goodness. We were having a blast before. We stopped by to get ice cream, went to the mall. We did a lot of, like, we was going multiple places, but we ended up, at the public library, which was dumb. I don't know why. But when we got to the juvenile detention center, there was also kids that were being held for a plethora of crimes. It was just not sweet. It was not a sweet experience. I was petrified, and it was girls and boys in there. The boys were very weird. And where me and my best friend was being held, it was not a cell. The kids that did, more serious crimes, there were cells for them, and they were in there with others. But we were in like this room. They had couches in there, but it was like a gray, dull, just, the aesthetics was like cold and icy. And they had like cement benches you could sit, but it was multiple of us in there. That's for the kids that skipped school. And they got us, it was around noon when they got us. And no one in my family got out of work early. Everybody got out of work around at least 5 p.m. So I knew I would be in there for some time before anybody came and got me. And my best friend also, her mom got out of work at 6 p.m. So we was like, bro, we've got to be in here for some time. That's if they even want to pick us up. Because, like, Haitian parents, they're the type to be like, keep her in there. Teach her a lesson. And mind you, that's exactly what happened to my best friend. Her mom was like, keep her in there. Keep her in there. She came and got her so much later. Of course, they're not going to literally keep you in there. But they make you believe. Like, I believed I was going to be kept in there. And my family, it became a whole thing where, oh my goodness, it was so dramatic, where my whole family was now Koreans in jail. So my aunt came and picked me up with my sister and my dad in the car. But, oh, bless their heart. That was truly a graceful moment, a moment of grace from God, where I understand that grace is, I thought I was expecting the worst. But they picked me up with food because I was starving. And no one said anything to me in the car. I just got in the car. We're driving home. No one said anything to me. And when we got home is when my sister was kind of taken up for me. She, bless her heart, I love my sister so much. She was just like, Karina, I understand, but why did you do that? She's older. She's just, But of course, my uncles were not as graceful as like my dad and my aunt and sister. Yeah, I got a little bow, you know, I got a little bow. And it was just like a meeting. Like I walked into the house, everyone was just sitting on the couch waiting for me to enter. Like to them Haitians, you were arrested. You went to jail. You had handcuffs. We had to go to the government to get you. We don't do that. We don't want no trouble. We came to work to do what we had to. Because mind you, we all stayed together in the house at that time. We were still fresh from Haiti, you know. So it was all my uncles, all my aunts, all of us in that one house. So everyone was still trying to figure their footing out. They didn't have it figured out yet. So it was not the life. But I said after that day, I was like, you know what? That was that day where I was like, this YOLO thing, I can't be skipping school. Like I can't go through this no more. No. But of course, every time you're in a situation, you make promises of what you're not going to do anymore. And then you end up doing it again, not skipping, but like something else to get you in trouble. And so as I got into high school and college, I was YOLOing. I was a chronic drinker, drinking a lot of alcohol. For what? Until I done messed up my system, IBS, all of those hormonal issues and stuff. And I had to quit that. Like that partying lifestyle, substances, all of that, getting into that life had consequences for me. Hormonal health consequences. And I was like, no, I love my body. If I'm going to live a long life, I don't want to live a long, miserable life where I'm unhealthy, you know? And even food, every time I'm at a restaurant or celebrating, I would be like, hey, you know, you only live once, so I'll eat whatever's in my mind. I'll order 2 to 3 different, just gluttonous meals. And you guys have seen my progressive weight loss journey. But it was really bad. At barely 5'3", 5'2", I was weighing almost 200 pounds. The heaviest I got was 188. And one time 190 is just insane to me. And now I done lost almost 40 pounds. Still have a lot more to lose to be for my height, to be great. But that was during the time of the pandemic where I was just reckless in what I was eating. YOLO has not been good to me. YOLO and relationships, YOLO and friendships that I made, places that I went, things that I did or tried has not been good to me, okay? I know I gave a what would seem silly example, but that truancy thing stayed with me. It traumatized me because I specifically remember us saying YOLO when we're deciding should we skip school or not. And that was a consequence. I specifically remember that. So it stayed with me. And it's over and over again, I've been learning that there's consequences to every decision we make. And we can't just make decisions all willy-nilly like that. Now, on the Christian aspect, right? I got some notes that I wrote down. I said, we don't only live once. We don't just have one life to live. There's a life after death. Yes, we all will die anyway, but when the King comes in the clouds, the dead in Christ will rise and meet him in heaven. And those who choose to YOLO will have to deal with the consequences, right? So I'll say this is that we know in Christ, we don't only live once. There is life after death. And what you do in this life determines if you get into the next life, right? In a sense, YOLO cannot apply to a Christian. You cannot say, we only live once anyways. We're all going to die anyways. So let's just sin. You can't say that, you know? Yes, we're all going to die, but there is a day of reckoning. And there was an atheist I was having a debate with. And one of the things that got him to be like, you know what? You made a point there. Let me just keep that. Because I was like, regardless if you believe in God or not, I can't intellectualize God to you. What if, though? Ask yourself, what if there is a God? What if it is true? And this God tells us to do everything that is morally right. And because you don't believe in him, you choose to live how you want and not do anything right. What if there is a God? Wouldn't you want to secure yourself just in case and be like, you know what? Let me live right. Let me do right. Let me take care of myself. Let me love others. Let me not go out here committing crimes and all of those things and just live a life that if there is a God, this God can see, okay, this person has done what the best it could as humans. And in a sense, if there is a God, What if instead of just combating his existence and trying to prove his lack of that he doesn't exist, what if you just prayed to that God and be like, Lord, if you do exist, don't let me walk in error or blindness. Actually show me that you exist, you know? What if you just tried that? But it's a concept that we say, even if you don't believe in life after death, but what if there is life after death? And everything you did in this life determines the next life. And you spent your whole time in this life YOLOing and living however you want. Why not just secure it by ordering your steps in a righteous path, right? Now, in 2 Timothy 3, it says, but understand this, that in the last days there will come times of difficulty, for people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, heartless, unappeasable, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having the appearance of godliness, but denying its power. Avoid such people, for among them are those who creep into the households and capture weak women, burdened with sins and led astray by various passions, always learning and never able to arrive at a knowledge of the truth. Just as James and John Brace opposes Moses, so these men also oppose the truth. Men corrupt in mind and disqualified regarding the faith, but they will not get very far, for their folly will be plain to all, as was that of those two men. You, however, have followed my teachings, my conduct, my aim in life, my faith, my patience, my love, my steadfastness, my persecutions and sufferings that happened to me at Antioch, at Iconium, and at Lystra, which persecutions I endured, yet from them all the Lord rescued me. Indeed, all who desires to live a godly life in Christ Jesus will be persecuted, while evil people and impostors will go on from bad to worse, deceiving and being deceived. But as for you, continue in what you have learned and have firmly believed, knowing from whom you learned it, and how from childhood you have been acquainted with the sacred writings, which are able to make you wise for salvation through faith in Christ Jesus. All scripture is breathed out by God and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for training in righteousness, that the man of God may be complete, equipped for every good work. Now, I read chapter 3 because as Christians, we should live by this chapter. Everything that it says will come in the last days we see in social media. Let's break it down like it says. People will be lovers of self, lovers of money. Like, what do we see on social media? It's a lot of women, men that even the concept of selfie and posting pictures and likes, and a lot of people love themselves. What is being flaunted all on social media is wealth core, old money. Everybody is obsessed with money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, heartless, unappeasable, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, and loving good, and not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having the appearance of godliness, but denying its power. YOLO pushes out lovers of pleasure. Again, a lot of people use YOLO to indulge in pleasure. And these are the popular pop culture terms that are being pushed into society. Lovers of self, like you only live once, do this, buy that, or go recklessly spend your money, not seeing the consequences later. And I feel like Timothy 3 shows us how not to live in this life. Apply it, yes. In those days, there will be a lot of these people. So obviously, we see that God does not take pleasure in these type of people. So let's not be those type of people. And to not be those type of people, we would have to take YOLO, the whole concept of YOLO, and abolish it and be like, you know what? I can't have that mindset and walk through life thinking that I only live once. I don't live once. And I can't indulge in a lot of the things that I would like to indulge in because I know there's consequences for my actions, right? So this is all I have to say for this. I'm curious to see you guys' YOLO stories in the comments. Don't let me be the only one that share my story. Don't do that. Don't do that, okay? Because I know you might be laughing at my little truancy story, but honey, I was traumatized. It was very traumatizing to be in there. And I was like, oh, never again. I do not like to deal with cops. I do not like to be in prisons, juvenile detention centers. And another traumatizing thing, I don't know why they did that in middle school. They took us to go visit kids people in jail, in middle school. Like, it wasn't like, okay, you take bad kids that were in suspension or ISS or something, took them to the jailhouse, which is 33rd for us, and then show them. No, they took us as kids on a field trip. Like, why? Maybe because they knew, okay, these are inner city kids. They're getting into a lot of trouble, so let's make it a field trip for this school. It was traumatizing because why? And then it was also visually seeing those people behind bars, angry, upset. Some were sad. Some were giving us motivational speeches. Some was cursing at us. Some of the weirdos was even catcalling the kids. And these were elementary kids. No, middle school. We were in middle school. And I just thought to myself, like, we had to go through the metal detectors. It was traumatizing. Like, this is a consequence for a lot of them of YOLO, because there are people that are falsely accused and falsely imprisoned. But it was traumatizing to me. And I wouldn't recommend bringing a child to a prison. It just was traumatizing. I was shaken visibly. And I just knew I don't want nothing to do with this life. It was not a pretty picture. It was cold cement beds. I just can't even imagine. And I have a lot of friends that ended up in the system because it was just what was around. And I'm just like, dang, it's just not for me. So I choose to abide by Timothy 3, abide by the precepts of the Lord, the laws of the Lord, and keep myself from this. And I've been better for it. I've been healthier, happy. And a lot of stuff that you do when you're YOLOing, you think you're having fun, but you regret ultimately later on in life. That moment of pleasure can be such a noose around your neck. I love you guys so much. Comment below. What are your thoughts? What else you would like to see? And I will see you in the next video. Mwah.